This episode of Super Pulp Science is brought to you by a thrilling collection of short stories featuring stealthy kung fu assassins clad in black, action-packed and wildly entertaining. Look for Ninja Versus now on Kickstarter.
Attention, citizens! It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. In the interest of full transparency, we've been talking about it quite lavishly is the polite word I'd use for the last little while. And then we were reminded by our podcast producer that we should actually start the show officially. So here we are. I'm here with my long-suffering co-host, Justin Curry, who is known the world over as Chasing Artwork. He was chasing a different sort of deadline today, which was getting to the podcast.
Yes.
Under new dad constraints, which old dads here, we got you.
Yeah.
It's all
We've
good.
been there.
And then producer extraordinaire, Dan Vadeboncoeur, is on the show, nodding his head at me, looking at me with those steely eyes. Oh my gosh.
You change my expressions randomly and try and throw you off.
I fell into your eyes, Dan. I have recently returned from the Toronto Comics Arts Festival.
TCAF.
TCAF, as
Say
it's known.
Canada's biggest book festival?
No,
No?
I don't think it's that, but it's definitely one of its best. That's what I would say.
Who's beating that one?
I don't know the facts of that world.
You don't want to...
Yeah, so
you don't
I
wanna
don't want to
state-
mischaracterize.
One of the biggest, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely big. And what's cool about TCAF is, dear listeners know that we go to regular sort of Comic-Cons regularly. And those we can characterize as big, media-saturated events where a friend of the podcast, Jonathan Ball, would say, if you look to the left, you might see a trinket. If you look to the right, you might see a trash. There's definitely trinkets and trash, but you have to really hone in on the thing that you're there for.
Somewhere in there is some treasure.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing. At any show, somebody's treasure is someone else's trash and vice versa, so that's true. But one thing that I would say is absolutely true about TCAF as a festival full of publishers and creators is everywhere you turn your head, it's just books and books made lovingly. It is books that are challenging the status quo. It is books that are reinventing what it means to be a book. Like, there are so many inventive, experimental portfolios of self-expression on display that it's really difficult. We bought a stack of books as high as my knee before we left the festival, because everywhere we turned, we were like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like that. Or, oh, I can't wait to read that. Or, oh, I just, there's an edition of 50. There will never be any more of these than if I don't buy one right now. Oh, this was silk screened. Oh, this was hand drawn and they hand drew in every volume. It's just...
Because it's not necessarily mainstream books. It's a little more indie. It's a little more people's personal projects, not publishers showcasing.
The AF in this case being the emphasis, the arts festival part, right? It is not just a comics festival, it's a comics arts festival. And as pretentious as that sounds, the idea here is self-expression first, commercial consideration second, generally speaking. And so, and that's another thing I'd say about the event, is there were so many people who could not have cared less as to whether or not their endeavor would ever reach a commercial level of success. There was a painful, an important, a pivotal tale of either themselves, their culture, their family, that they were just trying to put on paper, like into the archive of human history, like make it live outside their body in some way. And that, it's hard not to leave there inspired. If I sound inspired, that is why.
Because this is it's a curated, juried event, and the parameters to get into TCAF is you have to have something new.
That's right.
If you haven't published a book in the last year, you can't get in.
That's right. That's part of the curation process.
It has to be something new, and but it's not super expensive. So as long as you're making stuff,
yeah, and as long as your name is not Lyndon Rachenka, then you can also get into the festival. Isn't that right, Lyndon?
yeah, it's hard to get into.
Yeah, it's hard.
I think all of us at the studio have applied multiple times. Yeah. We've all been at least once, but it's not a. It's hard.
And we've all been rejected
multiple times.
Yeah,
many times.
Like, this is a part of TCAF, is that just because you could pay for the table is not a way to get in.
Is it kind of grandfathered where you once you get your spot, you're always guaranteed a spot, or is it a fresh slate every year?
Fresh slate.
Really? So you just apply every year, and if you get in, you get in, and if not, and they curate it. Okay.
I do believe some grandfather spots are held for some of the, shall we call them, publishers of note in that space. So Pow Pow and
Scholastic.
Scholastic was there, but I don't think that
Because they have a Toronto location, so you'd think they'd have some kind of...
What's interesting about Scholastic, now that you bring that up, Scholastic was there, but they made an effort, I felt, to not seem like
Scholastic.
a big book. Yeah. They were trying hard to prepare their inventory to appear as others' inventories, which is like to say they weren't trying to come in there all big shots and like we're the big book publisher and we have the resources. They kept it very low key, which I think was smart.
Okay, so when I think a publisher's table at a convention, I think of a bunch of books laying flat on a table.
That's TCAF.
That's TCAF.
That's TCAF, baby. Nobody's fighting for attention because everyone's there for books.
Backstands? Do they have backstands? What's a typical? Yeah, talk to us about a typical
We were among the rare group that had banners behind us.
Were you getting sneered at, do you think?
At first, but then when my banner, I specifically put up my Thistle Grimoire banners, which are like very peculiar. Mm-hmm. Difficult to just lead with that at most shows because people would be like, "Ugh, what are those weird bugs?" Right? And then some of my propaganda ones, we had a very small space, but I thought we just had to do our best. So, of course, we still brought backdrops and did our thing. They absolutely worked. Our elevated displays, our books on book stands made us seem like we were easier to browse.
All the tricks that you've learned doing Comic-Cons throughout the years really...
100% worked. Yeah.
So would you change anything about your setup for next year?
Yes, I would. We talked to TCAF organizers about how do you get more space.
Right, and because you have 6 feet of space, which is...
right.
Not what you're used to.
Yeah. And I said, how would we get more space? And they said, make it more worthwhile to the attendees. And how we qualify that is bring more artists or writers to do signings and be present and rep their work directly. So that was kind of an interesting thing. And because we were there with Stranger Fiction, right, as Stranger Fiction, then we pursued that line of inquiry a little to say, like, you know, so if we brought 3 of the published authors and artists, then we could expand this. Absolutely. That is the way to do it.
Yeah, Stranger Fiction is Jonathan Ball, who works here at the studio, his company.
Yeah.
But we all have kind of our own company names, but we've all kind of worked for each other and with each other on different things. So we've all done stuff with Stranger Fiction. I believe Dire Beasts and Dead Work is under Stranger Fiction. Yeah. So really for next year, if Stranger Fiction applies, almost all of us, I think all of us at the studio.
And the anthology projects that we do make that, you know.
Yeah.
Like without having to, Dead Work is a Chasing Artwork book, I think.
But no, it's not.
Yeah.
Dead Work Collective.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we did that under Dead Work Collective. You're right.
We are very organized.
Yeah. Business. Yeah. How does the song go? We're responsible adults. What was I going to say? Yeah, we wouldn't be fudging the numbers in any way to do it under that. But that's the way that you would do it, is bring more creators to give that one-on-one experience to the attendees. The attendees pay nothing.
Yeah.
Right? It's free to attend festival. And so if they're going to give you more space, it has to be because that experience is better for the attendees. I thought it was perfectly reasonable.
Like when people make books, they have kind of different goals and aspirations in mind. At TCAF, all these people who are making these weird, wonderful books, where do they want them to go in the world? Is TCAF like their ultimate goal, or are they looking to get picked up for distribution, or are they looking for publishers, or like what's the vibe for what those creators are after at TCAF?
Yeah, so I can't speak broadly.
Of course, it's all over the place.
But I can speak specifically about a few people that we met and talked to at length. And so one woman, Sherry, actually, let me grab her book off the shelf so I can give her a shout out.
So,
hi.
You like stuff?
I do.
Good.
I do like stuff.
I'm back.
Dr. Schreiber, I presume. It's you. Hey, come on. There's no way to greet a patient.
Sherry was one of the first people that I met. We got early to the festival because it was in a new venue. Okay, so here's some direct advice to those of you thinking of doing book festivals or Comic-Cons. If the venue has changed, go early.
Even if they tell you, don't set up until 4
That's right.
o'clock.
Go early and be prepared to be patient, right? Here's why. It's helpful to be on site early while they're figuring out the problems. If they've got all the problems figured out because everything went smoothly, they'll usually say, hey, yeah, you can drop your stuff off early. You can't set up yet, but by all means, drop off all your baggage and then come back during setup time. If you get there and they can't let you in, you at least know what the problems are.
Because I'm at, like, this is re-triggering like a
Yes.
memory from TCAF when I went back in, I want to say it was like 2017, 2018, where they were very strict about when you could set up. So when I arrived, there was this huge line of artists out the building and around the, like curling around the side of the library of everybody with our suitcases and our boxes, and it was hot and we were all miserable, but they had like a very strict load-in schedule. So that wasn't the case with this new venue.
No, they had a very large. They were at some. We talked about this a little bit. They were at some famous hockey place.
Maple Leaf Gardens.
They were at the old Maple Leaf Gardens, which has been converted into an athletic center. And is that
sports.
Significant for hockey people?
Yes.
Okay, go hockey people. It was at the Maple Leaf Gardens. My nation's pastime. It's pastime. I learned something about my nation's pastime, I suppose.
I have to double check this though, just to make sure. I'm going to look it up.
50 Carlton was the address. That I know, because we had to find it. But getting there, this is what I was going to say, is so we get there and it's all the volunteers are showing up and signing up, and we're there a number of hours early for setup, simply because we were homeless in Toronto, so we had to go somewhere. Having done that,
Do you want to give out your pro tip to how you showed up without luggage off the bat?
yeah. So if you fly to Toronto Airport and you have 600 pounds of gear in multiple suitcases across 2 people, take the train. It's lovely from the airport. It has a nice,
Very cost efficient.
yeah, super cost efficient, and goes straight to Union Station downtown. And right across the street from Union Station downtown is the fancy Fairmont Hotel. And you will be, perhaps, if you are a sweaty mess, as we were, you may look at the crisp, pressed suits of those bellhops, and you may think, they will not help me. I am just a vagabond from the streets. But instead, we wheeled up all of our heavy bags and asked if they wouldn't mind keeping them in their baggage holding area, because we had some stuff to do yet in the city before we could go. I informed them very transparently, we are not staying at the hotel, but could you hold our bags? And the quid pro quo is, of course, you're expected to tip that guy.
Yeah.
Right? And they'll hold your bags, and they have a big room for holding bags that they pass off to.
So if you're doing what we
taxi
do, at
people.
some point or another, you're going to be stuck in a city and you're in like that limbo between flights and conventions and whatever, and you have a bunch of suitcases and
you're
nowhere to
starving.
go. Yeah.
That's the key feature.
you need
was
to get
we
rid
were
of this.
so
Yeah.
hungry,
Yeah.
and we had so much baggage, and how are we going to get all this up the street to a restaurant, right?
Head to the nearest hotel.
Nearest fancy hotel. Fancy is a key feature
Yeah.
here, because they have a person who's being paid to handle bags. They will do it well. They'll give you a ticket.
Right.
Everything is above board. If you're nervous about it, go to the hotel front desk. I've been in a position where I was like, that guy was a little sketchy. Maybe I should inform the desk staff that I have done this. And they were very pleasant, very happy to do it. Sometimes they charge you $15. They're like, yeah, we'll hold your luggage. You know, we have a little form and a little fee.
You don't have to carry around 600 pounds for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Kind of worth it.
So that's what we did. And then we figured out what we had to do at the festival. And this leads up to me meeting Sherry. Now, Sherry's new book is called Being Here. And you asked the question, what are people hoping to get out of the festival?
What are they hungry for?
Yeah. So this is a very specific answer about a very cool lady that we met. Older lady had done a graphic medicine diary of her father, caring for her father. Done very well. Amazing drawings, cool graphic design, really like to the point.
Looks like a 2-color print job. I'm
Yeah.
only seeing black and blue.
Black and blue. It's like really effective storytelling with a really, honestly, kind of sad story and outcome. A lot of lifts, a lot of joys in it, but it's about caring for a person at the end of their life, right? And there's a little thing in the intro here that says, when I had to set the end date for the book, it was weird because the end date would be when he passed, because it's a memoir of that. So it was a weird thing to try to imagine, she said, and guesstimate for how I'm going to meet the deadlines when it's a literal deadline. So
Jeez.
so what does a person expect from that? Well, we spoke to Sherry a number of times over the course of the event. She said, I don't know what to expect from this event. I've got 50 copies of the book here. I'm interested in connecting with the comics community. I think I can learn a lot from people here. I can connect with publishers here. I can share this very personal story in a place where other people are sharing very personal stories. And the language that connects us all is comics, right? And she later in the event came up to the booth to say, like, wow, everyone is being so nice to me here. And again, we circled around the notion of, well, you have your passport. You did the work. You have the language of comics. So, of course, you're in. Everyone here wants to talk to you, wants to share what you can do, because you're not promising what you're going to do. You're not imagining a thing you're going to do. You did a thing that was really hard, and you're sharing it. And a lot of doors had opened for her over the course of the festival as a result of that. So, but this wasn't her plan. Her plan was, how do I find the community that also makes books like this?
Right.
I'm going to go.
She was prepared to do some legwork and do some work, but
and so when I texted
the work had been done.
When I texted you that Friday and I said, can you send me the convention list?
Yeah.
You had this convention checklist?
Oh, my checklist?
I gave it to her.
No, sorry, not my checklist. Darcy Fish's checklist that she lets me use.
That's right. She executive produced your convention checklist, and it's a wonderful resource. And she was Sherry was like, I've never done this before. I don't even know what I'm thinking of. I don't know what to do. And we were there early, so she was asking, and I said, I got a checklist. Somebody else has already figured this all out for you. So I texted Justin. He sent me back the checklist. I shared it with Sherry, and she was like, wow, only 3 of these things are necessary for me, but now I have an idea, right? Now I have an idea of what to bring tomorrow and what to do, and oh man, this is so cool. And I was just trying to set the tone that if you ask the people at TCAF to share how they're doing it, why they're doing it, when and where, this is a crowd that is going to share those things. And so I think emboldened by that initial caring gesture, she was,
Do you feel like at normal Comic-Cons, people are a little more tight-lipped?
You and I both know it's true. It's partially why we started this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are like, oh, wow, I don't want to tell you where my printer is. Why not? That's ridiculous. You don't own the printer. You're just a customer at the printer, right? There's a certain crabs in the bucket mentality in regular comic shows.
And on the other side of that, too, there's some people that they come to you with the purpose of mining you for information, but it's not in a let's get better together. It's I want to just shortcut a couple things and you figured it out. I don't know you that well, but tell me the secrets.
Yeah. Well, and this is how I felt. The person who spent this much energy and effort on a graphic memoir with their dying parent, it's fine to give them a few shortcuts.
Yeah.
That's okay. Someone who is like, what's hot? What sells now? Should I put vampires on the cover of my book? Right? Who should I hire to do the cover if I really want to sell the most number of speculative copies? That kind of nonsense drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Right? So TCAF is definitely not that kind of festival. But it was in a famous hockey venue.
Not Maple Leaf Gardens.
No, it wasn't?
No, it's another
you
famous.
heard it here first.
No,
I'm not the only one who doesn't know.
You think about the past much, Frank?
How much is the next guy?
A couple podcasts ago when you're talking about going to TCAF, and the other thing is you would set up along with TCAF. So we've talked about a bit of your experience on the floor and your table, but after hours, the one thing that I remember you talking about that I was excited about was you were going to a publisher that had their printing press in.
Oh, I can't wait to tell you this tale.
Boathouse Clubhouse.
Yes. Okay, so it is now called the Mattamy Athletic Center. It is the Maple Leaf
Oh,
Gardens.
is it? Okay.
It was the Maple Leaf Gardens originally.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't find that information, but there you go.
Yeah, so what I did was I put in the address in Toronto and then just zoomed in until the historical information appeared.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I didn't zoom in far enough.
Yes. Well, I'm about to close for you here on the podcast. I'm about to close. I took so many notes. What a day did we have? So many things happened on that day. I started taking notes because I thought I would forget what had happened on that day. I took lots of notes and did lots of sketching while I was in Toronto. It was so great. Yes, so Coach House, we went to after we went to see the wonderful people, Jay and Hazel, at Book Hug, which is a Toronto publisher of literary note. Let's say there's a big difference between our shelves here and their shelves there as to who the demographic readers are. People more interested in literary experiments, memoirs, poetry collections, those sorts of things at Book Hug. Jonathan Ball
I was going to say,
published a
this
few
sounds
things
like
there. They used to be called Book Thug, and we learned the whole etymology of the name. It was actually fascinating and quite interesting. And I want you to imagine a literary art space where the building downtown is by a Dark Horse espresso bar. There's these huge, thick columns. It used to be a tin factory or something related. You can Google that while you're looking up Maple Leaf Gardens, dear listener. And as a result, the wealthy patron of the building, gave the building to his children with the following proviso in the will: that the building would be converted into a space for the arts, it would support the arts community, or they wouldn't get to have it. Like, you can own the building, you can have it as an asset, but you must maintain it, and you must give preferential, deferential treatment to arts community, publishers, galleries, these kinds of things. Incredible gym in the middle of downtown Toronto to just go into the space where Book Hug was. And they had such great things to say about the people who actually ran the building. Like,
even though they were forced to do good.
yeah, that's right. A lot of give a shits in there, which was it was nice to see. So it was very, I want you to imagine a lot of 90-degree angles, a lot of very well appointed, old building upgraded to modern architecture. This is really important because then we went into the university quarter in and around Toronto there where Coach House Books is. And Coach House is a stark contrast. It's on a lane that didn't have a name until they named it. It's literally in an old, like 150-year-old coach house, like that used to have the coaches for the university stored in there, and now has old school printing presses ensconced in this ancient building. Picture the scene from Ray Bradbury's old television show where he's like introducing it and he's looking around his office and like there's all these quirky objects and bits of hemophilia and they are, and he's like, I'll make a story from this. This building is full of that stuff and has a enormously high percentage of the Giller Prize winners have come out of this super eclectic, just incredible space. Looks like a cross between a wizard's alchemy lab and a book publisher. And man, did we have a good time there. And then I met, while we were at Coach House, a legitimate mad scientist. So while we were there, Jonathan knew people at both presses, and so he had arranged for us to meet and tour both places. And while we were on the way, he says to me, someone important is going to be there. I'm so excited. We got to hurry up. Let's go. And Christian Book was there. Well, no, it's actually pronounced Book. It's spelled with those little symbols over top. Yeah, what are those called?
Umlaut.
Umlauts above it. And apparently his name is actually Book, B-O-O-K. But because no one would believe him, he changed it to the other thing so that it would be strange enough to be pronounced Book and people would take it at face value.
Right.
Which is like so typifies the kind of gentleman that we met. But he had written a poem in the genetic code of an unkillable virus. And while we were there, he was packing medical slides that had that virus on the slide as the copy of the book. In the genetic code of this organism was the poem he had discovered. If I can, if I dare, I'm going to try to get him on the show to discuss the 20-year crazy effort that he took to write in the genetics of an organism so that its body proteins would not reject the poem as an invader, but instead would make it stronger for being present in the living
What kind of
creature.
superpowers do you get if you eat this thing?
This is what I wonder. So wild, so crazy. He is, I'm told, quite an inflammatory figure in the poetry community, but he was a
Book printers hate him.
singular gentleman with, wow.
Well, because they can't print a slide of
Yeah,
virus.
just give him any
It
money.
also, there was a book that corresponds with the launch of this also, but he had this.
He's big in the lab supplies community, though. They love him there.
No, it was a 20-year effort that was not for the faint of heart. Let me put it that way. I heard a number of things about it. It's quite interesting. So we go to this wizard's alcove, and sure enough, meet a wizard inside of it while they're putting their books together. And while we're looking around, they gave me a tour of how things are being pressed and printed. And I found out that at Coach House, they have a very specific paper that no other book printer in the world but them uses. It's pulped specifically and made for them. So their books are also printed on paper that only Coach House is the only place in the world where the books have that specific paper. So this is the kind of place it is. It was quite captivating and wonderful. And then from there, we walked over to, in the same neighborhood, Westwood Creative, which is our agents of note, are there, and had a very wonderful, very long, very fruitful meeting of the minds about
Future projects.
future
endeavors.
projects and yeah. And I'll make a point here, I think. This is important because we made a joke on our Steve Kostansky podcast. He was saying, I'm afraid of sounding pretentious. So I said, don't worry, I'll head you off by saying something pretentious. So I said, I just came back from Toronto meeting my agent, which the point is not because the agent can get you things, but because if you start exposing yourself to things beyond your own current capacity, you can be taken advantage of quickly. And so that is Jake's role for me, is to help me not be taken advantage of as I poke my head out of the small publisher, mid-range publisher world that I feel very confident to navigate into a place where
That's a good
people have
place
their
to
lives ruined all the time.
You need to try new things
Yes.
and go bigger. And
That's right.
Broader.
So if I'm going to go somewhere scary, I felt I needed a guide.
Yeah.
So this was the context. Not because we have some big thing lined up, but because if we're going to risk it, we need a guide in those dangerous lands.
Yeah.
So, dear listener, that's the important part there.
I call them strangers. They abducted us and brought us here. This city, everyone in it, is their experiment.
How many books did you bring home? How many books did you buy while there?
It's too many. Like I said,
Yeah.
as high as my knee. Like, that's a lot of books.
'Cause
We actually shipped a box
I was
of
going to
books.
ask because, flying with books is the worst because they're so heavy. You can't bring enough.
Yeah.
So you shipped a bunch of books.
We shipped so many books home because we had an extra day. And we're like,
did they arrive? Is
well,
that
they're
what?
here already.
Okay,
Yeah, they're here. We got them. They're on the shelf. Now, that's why I was able to pull this off the shelf
Right,
so
okay.
quick, right? Because they came. So, yeah. What was the question? Traveling with books? I lost the thread.
You bought a bunch of books.
You went, and then you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
going
yeah.
to tell you. Okay, so the world is full of darkness. The world is full of the signs that things are not going to be okay. But I want to tell you that downtown Toronto, I saw at least one glimmering sign that things are going to be okay. And this also, I think, connects tangentially to the notion of pretension. So pardon me for that. But we noticed that right beside the Maple Leaf Gardens, which we have confirmed that's what it was, is a $5 theater that runs movies late into the night, all kinds of different run movies. And they had the director's cut of Dark City playing on the big screen.
Dark City.
Yeah. And so both Jonathan and I looked at our schedules and we started saying, which publisher or person is it okay to cancel the meeting to make sure that we see Dark City on the big screen? Thankfully, we didn't have to, but that's how committed to seeing Proyas's, I'll say masterpiece film on the screen. And when we finally went in to go see it Sunday night, the person who took our ticket, she was like, "Oh, you're the two guys who were really enthusiastic about coming to see this movie earlier on Friday or whatever." I was like, "Yep, that's us." She was reading an old dog-ear copy of a James Joyce short story collection and entered into this really quite lively discussion with Jonathan Ball, PhD in literature, about the beginnings of modern language and how it starts in this James Joyce story. And it just went back and forth. And I'm just watching this young person go toe to toe with Mr. Ball. And I'm thinking, yes, the world is fine. The world is fine. Let's not believe all the gloom that is being purported. There are people who are interested in challenging themselves for the sake of challenging themselves and engaging in difficult works because it makes them excited to do so. So and then I watched Dark City. Yeah. Oh, it was so good. I ate my popcorn way too fast.
Always happens.
Have you seen? When was the last time you saw Dark City?
Oh, it's been a while for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought about it for a long time.
I had forgotten how much The Matrix owes to Dark City.
Did that come first? Dark City came first?
It comes first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, not to say, like, nobody's stealing, but how much it owes to the fact that that movie had already been made. So The Matrix wasn't the weirdest kind of movie that had ever been made at that point. I think it moved the needle just enough to allow for it. That's what I mean by that. And so many practical effects. And Kiefer Sutherland, mutilated Kiefer Sutherland is also a great benefit to that movie.
He's a Canadian treasure.
Canadian treasure.
Yeah.
Oh, let's not make this a Dark City podcast, but I want to.
So talk more about this theater. Is it like just? I mean, you mentioned to Steve, and Steve knew it because he lived in Toronto. And is it like the kind of place that
it's now called the Imagine Cinemas?
Okay, and do they show? Is it like our Cinematheque, or do they show? Because I don't know that our Cinematheque doesn't necessarily show something like that. They're more
it's
newer
like
stuff.
Cinematheque is very clearly I shouldn't say clearly. To me, on the outside, the veneer was kind of like Cinema City. Remember Cinema City?
Oh yeah.
Like that. Short.
Second run, but older.
Second run, older movies. And then also they had some newer ones that were of interest to the genre community. And then they also had a poster that said the first Saturday of every month, they play The Room.
Jeez.
That's funny.
Right.
Well, that tells you what kind of place it is right there.
So,
Really,
still
I've never seen that movie.
Yeah. If you get a chance, you should.
I feel like it's been built up too much now.
No. It is awful.
I know it is.
It is awful.
I don't want to watch
but
it.
It's so bad it's good.
I know.
And like many bad movies, if you see it with a crowd, don't watch it at home by yourself. Go to a room full of people who watch The Room semi-regularly and just... I imagine it's not unlike the joy you get from a hockey game. The thing you're watching, right? The thing you're watching has happened before many times. A little thing is moved across the ice and it's going to go into a pocket and everyone cheers. The cheering is what sweeps you up into the great human experience.
Yeah, there's many movies that qualify to that. Like if you watch this in the right group, phenomenal experience.
Yeah.
You watch it by yourself, you're not getting Moonfall.
If I hadn't seen Moonfall with you, I would have regretted every second of having seen it.
Yeah, I wish I'd seen Moonfall for the first time with people, but I watched it myself first, and yeah.
He made us watch it.
Oh, is it Gerard Butler?
No, Moonfall was...
But the pedigree you're aiming at is correct.
I thought that was like a disaster movie.
Handsome Hollywood guy, number 4, and...
Gerard Butler. Oh, no, he's number 5.
He's number 3.
Anyway, Moonfall is great, a bad movie.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. A great bad movie.
What's next?
We also got to spend some time with Salima Nawaz, who is currently writing for... she's an old dear friend, but she is currently writing for Murdoch Mysteries. So we got to hear about I find very fascinating television at that level. right?
That's about as big as it gets for Canada.
For Canada, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, as big as it gets in Canada. And it did not disappoint. I don't mean in a bad way. Like, there wasn't a whole bunch of like bad hot goss, but like really fascinating ways in which the episodes are produced, made, carried out, the surprises that happen on set, how if you're a writer on the show, you kind of come on as almost like a script supervisor on your episode, so that, which is different for some shows. So like, by way of example, you might write an episode and that's the last thing you ever do as a writer on the show is hand it in, it gets rewritten, they never talk to you again, they pay your invoice and that's it. But if you are in the writer's room on a show of that level, you are sometimes brought in to be script supervisor on the episode you wrote, so that if there are questions, they can ask it.
What is his character's motivation? Why is he so angry?
Yeah, or more specifically, like, we're going to change these lines.
What's
Does
a
this
new one?
mess up the
Yeah.
scene next if we change these lines? Those kinds of things, right? So that kind of stuff I found very fascinating and really interesting. And Salima and John, in the interest of full transparency here, way back in our misspent youth, we were part of a writers group together. We met at Dennis Cooley's writing class. And when the class was winding down, there were so many members of the class that were interested in continuing the creative endeavor that I started hosting that group at my house. And so for a number of years, the class that we took together, we kept having every week at my house, every Wednesday night. And we just kept workshopping. So poets and screenwriters and novelists and whatever, and all genres, all types of writing. The thing was that you had to come with new writing every time. And if you came with new writing, you shared it. And if you shared the new writing, you had to have a very specific list of things you wanted feedback on. You couldn't just say, tell me what you thought, because that wastes everyone's time. I think my dialogue's weak. Let's discuss. Or I think this paragraph doesn't finish the whole story properly. Let's discuss. I think my poem is a little too esoteric, right? For the following reasons. Could we have some feedback, right?
It's your first night at Fight Night. You have to fight.
You have to fight.
Fight Club.
That's right. Yeah. Every night is fight night for Justin now, right? Diapers. So fast forward now, many years later, it's just so wonderful to see Salima, who has worked so hard to get to that place, be so contented. Like, she was just overjoyed with how her efforts were being rewarded by the thing that she wanted, and it was so good. So my heart grew at least 5 sizes. It was a shriveled, horrible, desiccated, spiteful raisin going into TCAF, and it is now returned to a human size. I told Lyndon earlier today that I'm never more socialist than when I return from TCAF.
So it seems you've discovered your unpleasant nature.
What's your next show?
It'll be the Montreal Comic-Con. I think is the next
so you'll
one.
move more towards
early
capitalism
July
with that one.
or mid-July?
We just said July 7th we're coming home, so it's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's Montreal and then Icon for me, but you guys aren't doing Icon.
Yeah, no. Rub it in.
I was. In
Zing.
my mind,
Did you not get in?
I couldn't
I
remember.
didn't get in.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah.
You're not anime enough, Greg.
True, though. Like, if you're going to cut somebody, like if you put Justin's body of work and mine side by side for an anime show and you don't pick him,
Yeah, if you got,
Something's wrong.
that would be something wrong. If you got
there'd be
chosen over him,
something-
for sure.
That would
Yeah.
be something wrong. Yeah.
You do have a lot of giant robots.
I do have a lot of giant robots.
Not
And
the right type of giant
that's right.
robots.
Yeah, that's right. They don't shimmer enough.
They're not shiny.
Yeah, it's not
A little boxy.
Yeah. No, yeah, and no shade. The organizer has to, just like we were saying about TCAF, right? If you don't submit, you can't get in.
But also, like, TCAF, pretty notorious for having a crazy long waiting list. Like, every year, there's tons and tons of creators who try to get into that show and can't get into that show. And it's happening, like, more and more. Like, almost every convention that we go to, like, sells out their artist alley pretty quickly. Their vendors go quickly. Like, back, I think, when we started, it was pretty, no, I wouldn't say easy, but pretty common to be able to sneak into a show last minute. Not the case anymore.
Yeah, real tricky now.
Yeah, or the plan ahead.
Yeah. Darn it. I like a quick pivot more than I like anything else. Shout out to Candida Rifkin, who was also out at TCAF, flew out from Winnipeg. She heads up a whole bunch of comics classes at the U of W. So she was there collecting resources, collecting things, and had a great connection with her. I also saw at TCAF, spoke to Fatty, who is the Chapter House, is what you may remember, the publisher, which has now become Comics House and Friday First. They partnered with Lev Gleason Publishing recently, so I caught up with that and got some of the scuttlebutt. It's interesting. There's probably a whole episode to unpack in there, but why anyone, our dear listeners, would care about that publisher is they are the current publisher and have been publisher of note for a long time of Captain Canuck, which is coming up on its big anniversary. I want to say 50 years? 50-year anniversary? Can't beat that.
It's got to be something like that.
Yeah, it's got to be close. But big anniversary coming up. And so they were doing some work there. When Chapter House closed, there was a lot of industry, shall we say, vitriol around how that was working. But the fact that Comic House continued on and got some new backers, I'll just say that there's clearly a number of sides of the story, and I heard a few new facets of that story, and it made a lot more things make sense to me as a result of that. So I wish them well in their big endeavors. I'm trying to think of what else. I'm looking at my notes now, saying what else happened. Oh, we saw a samurai. Just a samurai in the street, not cosplaying. This is really important. Not connected to the festival. Not in any place where it seemed like a cosplay event was occurring. We were out late one night. Must have been Saturday night. Sunday night? Sunday night. It was after we saw Dark City. We were walking home. We tried to walk everywhere we could in Toronto. And then all of a sudden, I look up and I feel like I'm hallucinating.
After seeing like a reality
bending movie. Yeah, exactly right. Thank you. Exactly right. And so I look over to Jonathan, and he's staring.
To make sure that he's
staring, and he goes, "Gregory, I see it too." And I was like, "Okay, that's a samurai, right?" And he says, "Yeah, there's a samurai coming. Full gear, shoes and all. Looked like a real sword." And they just crossed the street, went to the apartment block, tapped in or whatever, and then strolled into their big glass edifice. That's downtown Toronto apartment. But I think somewhere in Toronto that night, the body of a ninja was discovered.
Yeah, it must have been, eh? That's hilarious.
Oh, and that's not even an intended segue, but Ninja Versus launched today on Kickstarter. George McHale's Dire Beast inspired collection of ninja stories, all written and illustrated by a variety of illustrators, including myself, is now on Kickstarter. And so if you want to get a gigantic ninja versus robots, ninjas versus commandos, ninjas versus monsters.
So everybody's story had to be
a ninja versus something.
Right.
Yeah. So many. And a few Dire Beast contributors are also in that George had brought to us that he's carried on in the grand tradition. So, yeah.
Cool.
I didn't mean to turn that into a commercial, but it suddenly occurred to me I'm supposed to be talking about ninjas, right?
And when does that book come out?
The
Kickstarter is going on?
The Kickstarter is ongoing right now, and then I believe the plan is to print it either way. So the Kickstarter becomes a pre-order with all the bonuses and all the extra bits, and then I think out for October.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you want to get in early on Ninja Versus, this is your call to action, dear listener. It'll be the only place for a good long while where you can see the ninja story that we talked about, the mistake I made on the show. It appears in this book, having been re-lettered by Lyndon.
Digital release July.
Digital
Release October.
Digital release July. Thank you, Lyndon. Physical release October.
Well, you have it in time for the Winnipeg Comic-Con.
I believe we will.
Oh, nice.
That is the plan. And so I will have so many new books for Winnipeg Comic-Con. It'll be a little nuts. Yeah. We did a big interview yesterday on the Uncensored Geeks Network for their We Got Issues channel for Last Breeds yesterday. I can't tell you too much more about what we said because they have to release it there. But I got to sort of co-opt the whole discussion to be how much we love Scott Henderson and how everyone should hire him, and Marvel and DC are sleeping on this dude.
Wake up! Hey!
Wake up!
I have been slowly chipping away at probably like my last piece of fan art for, I think, maybe the year, because I'm going back to my book project, and things are just taking a little bit longer with new baby, things change all the time, right? So sleep schedule is not super conducive to painting right now, but it's changing in the last week or two, so I might be productive again. But it's been tricky to get paintings done in time for shows, and so rather than stress myself out about it, I'm just going to switch gears and chip away at my book, where there's a lot more moving pieces and I can get a lot more things done. So yeah, I've been
slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Lex big. We've got Montreal and Icon coming up, and then San Diego Comic Con is happening at the end of July. So that's kind of that. Everything has to get figured out far ahead of time. So that's kind of my big priority right now is sorting out all.
Enormous show.
Yeah, just the amount of logistics that go along with that show is. It's more than most, just being in a different country and
It's interesting you bring up San Diego. This is a good way to round it out. There was the very first year, I have to think of what year that was, when I had decided I'm going to make comics, I'm going to take this seriously.
2008.
Yeah, it was probably the year before then, so it's probably 2007.
But 2008 was the first year that the Winnipeg Comic Con was at the convention center when you had the big booth. That July?
My question is, did I have the Imagination Manifesto hardcover there then?
Pretty sure you did, because I think that's where I picked it up.
Probably would have been then that year before that.
2007.
The reason I bring this all up is that TCAF feeling I had in only 2 rows of San Diego Comic-Con. San Diego Comic-Con is the most bombastic, loudest, craziest comic convention. Yeah, it's different than New York. It hits me different. It's harder to take.
We're there for 5 days, and we get access to the floor before and after the crowd is there. So for five days, we can walk around without fighting the crowds, and still you don't feel like you've
seen it all. But I found what is essentially was like a indie publishers row there when I first was like, I want to make comics. I love comics. In retrospect, I believe I was looking back through like old photos and things. I believe I first met Jim Rugg there without knowing that that's who he was at the time. Like, he's grown in that space quite a fair amount. And I was just really embraced, where I was like, oh, I'm from Canada and I'm going to make weird comics. And they were like, welcome, you're one of us. And that feeling, that's what TCAF feels like. Where like what people want is for you to try, and they want you to succeed in any way that you have set as your means of success.
They don't see you as competition.
Yeah.
They see you as new member of the tribe.
Yeah, just come on in and make weird stuff. And so I've decided that on my breaks from your booth, which will be few but far between, I'm going to seek out those rows and those rows alone in San Diego, and I will report back about the bombast, unless there's a new Dark Crystal exhibit, in which case I'll spend all my time there.
I'm not sure if the Dark Crystal
there won't
coming
be.
back.
There won't be. Yeah.
Too bad.
Okay. So this has been Super Pulp Science, where we have talked about how genre gets made. We've encouraged you to join the fight and make comics, but this time I really mean it.